That sounds great.
Hello everyone and welcome back to season 2 of That Sounds Great. We are back bigger and better than before, and we've got some more amazing guests lined up for you all as well. On top of all that, in this season we'll be giving away some fantastic prizes in every single episode, including a Sibelius artist license and $100 worth of Avid swag. Now, who wouldn't want some of that?
Yep.
And at the end of the season we'll also be giving one lucky winner an Mbox Studio, which also comes with a 1-year Pro Tools Studio license. All you have to do is click the link below in the description and sign up to be in with a chance to win. Then tune in each week to find out if you're a winner. And for those of you that don't know, Sibelius is an extremely powerful music notation tool which allows you to compose, arrange, orchestrate and publish music. And actually, Sibelius is so powerful that we want Pro Tools users to know that you can up your game with original beats, melodies and tons of instrument sounds as well, with absolute control over every single note. So make sure that you click the link in the description below for your chance to win these awesome prizes. Now, without any further ado, G, tell everyone a little bit about our guest today.
Yes, well guys, welcome to the show. Season 2 is going to be amazing. I'm G, and today's guest I'm super excited about. Today's guest is Joe Kearns, who's a songwriter, producer, and who's also nominated for a Brit. Joe has been writing a lot of pop music which is out there and worked with great artists such as Ellie Goulding and Zara Larsson. Well, Joe, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Super excited to have you, man. And we want to first touch on the first question and also maybe give a little introduction to yourself. And, you know, how did you kind of get into songwriting and where you are? In a short nutshell. Maybe talk about your life as well.
So I'm
Cover
Joe.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
So I was born. Yeah, producer, writer, based in West London. Been kicking around for a few years now. I actually started as an engineer, so I've come through the sort of nerd path
Nice.
to where I got here.
Yeah.
Did you study anything to do with music?
Yeah, I went to university to do. It was a BSc, so a science degree in. I'm going to get it wrong now. Music tech and audio systems, I think.
That's
Audio
quite similar to what we
systems,
did.
wow.
Audio
Yeah,
systems
so it was a bit recording stuff, but also like a bit of electronics, a bit of programming and all
Yeah.
that sort of stuff, which I haven't really used at all. But the recording side was obviously useful.
Yeah.
And then I got a job at a studio called British Grove in West London and worked there for 6-7 years.
Wow. And British Grove has a lot of talent coming out of there, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's owned by Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits, and
Right.
and I don't know, it's just it had the best gear, and it was such a great place to learn. I basically had a mate who I met at college. He had a job there. It's one of the classic, like, you need an in on all these.
Oh, wow.
You know, there's about 10 jobs a year in big studios that are going, and less and less every year because studios are shutting, unfortunately. But so yeah, it was great education. And then it's actually Ellie that came in one day, didn't have an engineer,
Wow.
stepped up, and then that relationship evolved over the 12 years to writing and producing her last record. And yeah,
That's incredible.
so it's sort of a lesson in take your chances kind of thing.
The BSc side of things is always fascinating to me. It's like I always tell my friends, like, I'm technically a scientist. I got a bachelor in science.
Yeah, you're a
true.
master of
There you
science.
are,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it
a good way to look at it,
doesn't get me very far though. that
Yeah.
You did music, mate. Shut up. Yeah, but no, that's really fascinating to hear. So, how much of that educational side influenced like where you are today?
I think weirdly, for me, it feels like it's like passive a lot of time. Like you'll be doing, I don't know, even something silly like setting up a mic and setting the gain structure and stuff. You're doing it as second nature now, but it's definitely stuff that's been instilled in you. You know, I suppose like learning a language or whatever. You don't sort of think about it consciously.
Yeah.
It was great. You sort of reference it all the time. Yeah.
Did you do like a sandwich year at all and get like some work?
Yeah, so that's what happened. So I did 2 years of the degree. Then the third year was my placement year at British Grove. And I remember that was a funny thing because at the end, I decided not to have any summer holidays either side. So I made the year into 16 months or whatever. I wanted to. It was literally like finish university on a Friday, started at British Grove on a Monday. Because I was the keenest bean in the world.
Oh, it's good though, man.
Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, this industry, if you're not super keen,
it's cutthroat.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. There's someone else that'll be more keen than you.
Of course.
So anyway, did that, and at the end of that year, British Grove said, you know, you can just stay on. You don't need to go back to university. And that was a bit of a weird decision for me then, because it's like, the point of doing the degree is to get a job in a professional music thing, but my mum would have killed me if I hadn't finished the degree. So luckily, it's only actually 8 months, I suppose, a year of university by the time if you cut out all the holidays. So I went back, did the final year, and then went straight back to British Grove afterwards.
They allowed that to happen. Did
Yeah, they were great. They're so accommodating.
I was gonna say, because imagine if you're like, they were like, yeah, it's either now or never.
Yeah,
and
I
then
know,
you're like,
right?
I'm gonna go back to uni to hopefully get this job again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why it was a bit of a funny thing. It's like the only reason to get the degree is to get the job.
Yeah,
somebody offered you. So, but it was nice to finish the degree, and then you've got that,
That's good.
as a thing. You've completed the whole thing.
You must have really left your mark there then. When you were there.
Well, when I was there, it was quite like a young studio in a way. So it's only me and another assistant called Rich Cooper, who's gone on to be a brilliant producer, and does a lot with like Rena and all that. So he's a bit more left indie stuff, but he's brilliant. And should actually probably meet. I haven't seen him in a while. But, so it's just me and Rich being the two assistants and engineers early doors for years, and we were running crazy sessions, but sort of don't realise it when you're in it, because that's some of the bigger institutions like Abbey Roads and Ayres and stuff are amazing, but if you go in at ground level, you're waiting 10 years till you get an opportunity.
You're making coffees for a while,
because exactly. Because British Grove was younger, like it was kind of me and him, so me and Richard sort of had to like deal with all these huge clients. I remember my first week we did the Sgt. Pepper's album, but with modern bands. So I was sort of like working on these sessions with Sting and Paul McCartney. It was just like this crazy stuff, and I was just like, I didn't know what was going on, but it's all part of it, isn't it?
Tell us a little bit about your songwriting process and how it goes from inspiration to finished product.
It's a tricky question because there's not sort of one way of doing things.
Of course.
One day it might be me playing some little loops or starter ideas I've got, going from that. One day it's picking up guitar or piano. My favourite personal way is starting with the concept of the lyric, or the concept of the song first, because I feel that dictates everything else.
Well, like discussing what the song will be about.
Yeah, right. Okay. And not everyone likes that. Some people prefer like getting some chords and getting on the mic and sort of mumbling, and then you find a lyric in there. Yeah. But for me personally, I find that's a bit like aimless. Yeah. Whereas if you go with like, this song is about such and such, that will dictate mood, tempo, production, everything.
And in terms of sparking that discussion, how do you get to those channels?
Well, yeah, it's a tricky one because most sessions start with at least an hour of just like chatting about life and what's people going on about. Yeah. And if you can depending on it can be very different if it's a pitch session or an artist session. Artist session, you're obviously trying to dig out from the artist something that's going on that's real to them, and then helping them tell that story. So if you can do that, brilliant. In a pitch session, it's a bit different. You sort of have a chat, and then this sort of gets to this point, I find, where people go, so what do you want to do today? And then it's this kind of a bit awkward, like, who's willing to throw the idea out? Right. And obviously some of the best songs in history are also like quite mad ideas. Yeah. And so it can be tricky, and that's why it's always great to write with people you know and trust as well.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I always think of a song like Wrecking Ball. Yeah. If someone had said that in a room, I've got a song concept, Wrecking Ball, people are like, what are they talking about? Sounds stupid. It's one of the best songs ever written. Yeah. So, like, how do you it's getting on that conversation of like having ideas. Helps a lot of time people bring stuff in. Or if I'm sure every writer in the world has a list on their phone of
voice notes,
titles and voice notes.
Oh man.
Yeah, so you got a little bit of ammo to go into the room.
And how does that work when you're like co-writing with other people and they have their own songwriting process and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, you got to be flexible. Right. Because I mean you could sort of say, no, this is how I do it. Right. But I feel like you're starting the day on tension if you do that.
So, I've got a question that I've got. This is not actually a question I wrote down, but I want to ask you, obviously talking about collaborating with songwriters and stuff and how important it is, but obviously we've got a lot of viewers out there who would be new to songwriting or want to get into that. Yeah. And the importance of it is obviously handling the business side of obviously being songwriters, right? In the sense of like, there's so many cooks in the kitchen. Right, yeah. So many cooks in the kitchen. Like, how do you delegate kind of like a songwriting process? How do you kind of not step on someone's foot too much, or kind of, how is that sort of thing?
Well, I think whoever's like curating the rooms, whether it's managers or publishers or even doing it yourself, being quite, sensible with the personnel. You don't want to have 3 track people and 1 top line. Yeah, that's true. Or or too many writers that are in a similar thing, or whatever. Like, if you make sure rooms are curated in a way that it makes sense who's there, and again, you can easily have session with too many people. Which I've seen sometimes when things have got booked weirdly or badly, and then sort of have 5 people, and it can be a bit rudderless then because everyone's trying to do whatever. But I think mainly just making sure everyone's I don't want to say everyone's got a job role, because it's much more fluid than that. It's not like I'm the producer, I don't get involved in the lyric, because I personally love to get involved in the lyric and stuff, and verse. In fact, it's something I think we should push more, because sometimes it is like, you know, person on the computer and then people writing the top line. It was almost like this separation, but it shouldn't be. Like writers, you know, have, even if they're not physically touching the computer, have production ideas and discussions, or I'm not sure about that snare or whatever, like whatever it is. Just so everything's like all on the same team, just making that song. Those 3 or 4 people in the room that day.
Wow, yeah. So can we just touch on maybe like something that was meaningful to you? Because I know you said you get people in the room and obviously it's about the artist and whatever, but have you ever kind of taken a song that you wrote about you and that's been very personal to you and then kind of pass it on to the artist or whatever it might be?
Do you know what? I really never have.
Really?
Wow.
Like, I've never really written a song telling my story.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Not even something you might have seen on one day, or like.
I mean, sometimes, yeah, like if I've got a little lyric or whatever that sometimes you're just watching a film or something, or something someone says in a conversation, you go, oh, that's a good line, write that down. But I've never sort of like gone in the room and go, guys, this happened to me. I want to talk about it. And I don't know if I ever would. Like, I don't know.
I think to put it across that way might seem a little bit like arrogant or selfish to a certain extent. But if you say I've got this idea, you could play it that way. But I don't know if you ever.
But I think the best one's then if someone goes, what's that about? And then in the room we need to discuss like, oh, what happened and what's this, you know, the context of that lyric or that title or whatever. It's definitely songs I've written when I go, oh, that I can relate to, and as we're then making it, I'm thinking of the situations in my life, but I've never sort of done like a real like, this is something that's happening, I'm going through right now, let's talk about it. And I don't, maybe it's just me being closed off and emotional.
I'd love to hear one of those songs though, man. I want to hear that.
You got me intrigued now.
It'd be like a 19-minute epic.
Oh man, like an album in a song.
That's a bit like the Frank Ocean album that he did.
Channel Orange, was it?
Nah, the one that is Endless, where he just did like one entire song.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, mad.
Sick, smart.
To get rid of it. Who are some of your biggest musical influences, and how have they like shaped your songwriting abilities and your sounds and stuff like that?
Well, growing up, all the music I listened to growing up doesn't, well, I suppose it does in some ways, but I was really into like Aphex Twin and Square Pusher or Tekka, all that sort of Warp Record stuff.
That's different.
I love that, but I think that was because from the nerdy production side, it was so tech and so like involved how the production worked. I used to get really obsessed with that, and then that sort of evolved, and then like now I'd say my favourite things are like sort of Gorillaz, Beck, that kind of like, which I don't really get much chance to do exactly that kind of stuff, but bringing those kind of lo-fi like vibey, like a bit rough into pop production to like.
Why do you not get the opportunity? Is it more just because it's not as trending as some of the other genres?
Yeah, I suppose. Well, actually, saying that, there's a bit of a trend now of some bit more like rough lo-fi stuff coming in, but I don't know. I mean, like specifically working with those kind of bands, they're generally a much more closed off thing. It's not as accessible as sort of like general pop stuff, but you know, I'm sure Damon Albarn just goes away by himself and makes a Gorillaz record. But I'd also like be slightly scared, you know, like the "Don't Meet Your Heroes" type thing. And it's also quite nice keeping some facets of music as a fan, because when you work in it and it's all you do all day, every day,
ruin it for you.
Well, you find yourself like everything, and if I listen to any chart stuff, I'm analysing the whole time. So some bits, it's like that's a little bit for me that I can go and listen and enjoy it.
So that kind of goes on to my second question actually about criticism of your work. Now, you know, you probably have loads of people that kind of.
They said what?
You what? But how do you handle kind of criticism in your work? And you know, has there ever been a time where you've struggled with kind of self-doubt as a songwriter?
Yeah, every day. Yeah,
really?
Everyone does every day. I think it's like the most common. What's the way they call it? Imposter syndrome.
Oh, imposter syndrome. Yes.
You're in a room and suddenly you think, oh, if it's not happening or you're not getting an idea, you go going, oh, you know, you think, oh, I'm rubbish at this, blah blah blah.
For all of you watching and listening, guys, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone goes through it.
No, it's so common. Yeah, because and then somehow you stumble through and you get to the end of the day and you go, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
But
what was I worried about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really. I was mentioning to you guys earlier, I don't really use social media much. So if there's anything on the internet with someone saying, I think your song's rubbish, I wouldn't know. So
don't read the comments.
That's a smart way to look at it, actually.
The criticism, I suppose, harder for me to deal with would be more like, I've done a session, I think this is sick, I love it, send it in, and then management and publisher like, yes, all right. Or like they're like, it's cool, and I'm like, I just spent 12 hours working on that, or they're like, they're not as excited as I am,
right?
Or I think it's work for this artist, we pitch it in and they get it back like, it's not right for them or whatever, and it's like that's probably the hardest stuff to take, but it's really is a case of like perseverance and keep going.
How much do you think people in that position, how much do you think they impact the success of an artist or a songwriter, everyone that's involved as part of the
Sort of
project?
on the sort of management publishing
Yeah.
side. Oh, massively.
Right?
Really?
Yeah. If you,
yeah.
having the right team that side is probably not as important as the music, but
yeah.
you think you
They're
could
the
have
gatekeepers, right?
yeah, if we now wrote the best song ever written, the three of us,
Yeah.
and it didn't get sent through to the right people, so no one's going to take it. So
Oh, yeah,
no one will ever hear
100%.
it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and there's certain gatekeepers that will definitely have access to a certain project that's looking for songs, and you could say, oh, I know Project X is looking for songs, but unless you have access to these certain channels to
Right.
get there, then they're never going to hear your song.
And have you had any like bad experiences where you thought you've had an absolute banger or hit and it's just been locked
Oh
up?
yeah, every week, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, every week. It's like,
Every
this is
day.
How do you get over that? Did you
We just keep making more.
Yeah.
fair
And then
enough.
also, like, I've in the arts game a bit, but in the pitch game especially, there'll be
Yeah.
songs from 5 years ago that you thought completely dead,
Yeah.
and then suddenly someone hears it via some weird chain, and they go, "So and so wants to cut this." You're like, forgot about that
yeah.
song.
Oh wow. So
You
that's
know-
the thing about also as a songwriter, you have a catalogue of music, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolute catalogue. But
Yeah.
if you could, it's probably gonna be really hard. But can you actually give a percentage to how many of them songs that you create get used?
Good question.
Because I've heard some stories and it's quite.
Oh, it's low. It'll be, I don't know. Say you did 200 songs in a year,
Wow.
maybe between 5 and 10 come out.
Wow.
But like I say, there could
Wow.
be ones from years ago that then come out. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's I
That's
mean, but then
crazy.
I don't know. But then depending on various degrees. But then some years it might be 20. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's weird though because I've noticed as well, like or music, let's say, like it does come back around as well, like different. You know, you
100%,
might
yeah.
think, oh, that sound's gone, and then, like you said, 5 years later, it's come back again.
That sounds great.
Sounds great. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Never goes.
That's really interesting, man. How do you balance creative expression with the commercial demands of the industry as well?
Yeah, it's tricky. I feel like I'd like to say that I just go in and don't think about it, and I just make a song and enjoy it. But you do end up thinking, oh, what
Yeah.
what's everyone else up to?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. But if you can have a discipline to go completely ignore what's going on,
Yeah.
that's when you get like the great people like Labyrinth and people like that.
Oh, yeah.
His music's never
Not
on
popular.
trend, but he's
Oh,
making
amazing.
trends.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's going in by himself and not caring about.
Yeah.
If you can have that mindset, it's very hard to do
Yeah.
and not think, oh, this kind of drum sound is cool at the minute, or this kind of tempo is cool at the minute, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because the problem is if it's cool at the minute and you're making it, if that song takes a year to come out,
Oh my god. Yeah.
the trend's already gone probably.
Yeah.
That's a good little tip.
That's
there,
a good
actually,
point.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
Just get it out there.
Yeah.
Release it.
Or just focus on kind of your own sound more than anyone
Yeah.
else's.
Be all the weird and wonderful stuff, especially now. Like there's no limits on anything anymore.
No.
Just do whatever you enjoy.
Weird
doing.
works.
Yeah, if for sure. Also, if you think how many songs are being made now, and also put in with some mad stat about Spotify gets 1 million songs a day
Oh,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
right, added to it. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but it's something. It's something crazy. But if you're sort of making songs that sound like what's in the charts, and you're pitching them in or sending them to artists, whatever, they're not going to get excited. 'Cause I've heard 50 of them today.
Yeah.
So if you're doing something weird and wonderful and out there and whatever, that's what's going to stand out and be interesting to people.
Oh, so true,
Good
man.
point.
So talking about the songs you wrote and the ones that are out, that everyone probably has heard as well. But what are some of the favourite songs that you have wrote and that are out, and kind of why do those specifically stand out to you?
There's a song I did with Ellie and an artist called Lauv called Slow Grenade, which I really love. More because how we wrote it.
What's it called?
Slow Grenade.
Slow Grenade.
We were in LA and we had a session with another producer and a writer called Brett McLaughlin, who goes as Leland, as his sort of artist writer name. And we had an okay day, got like a okay idea, but not the one. And then the next day, me and Ellie were going to go to another session, but we cancelled it. We were staying in an Airbnb, cancelled it, and just hung out at the Airbnb, and just started had some lunch and mucking about on a guitar.
Oh, nice.
Called Brett again to come that evening, and we finished it, and we basically wrote the song in 2 hours.
Wow.
And then it was actually Brett. I've got all his hands off to him. He's such a hustler. He then took it to Lauv,
Yeah.
and then Lauv jumped on it, and it was just like it was really nice.
Wow.
The experience of making that record was really
Yeah.
nice and easy. And then Oscar Gores in Stockholm finished the production. He's amazing.
I bet you wish that every song would just went like that, the process.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, you'd have ones like that. It's just like, oh, it took 2 hours start to finish
Yeah.
basically, and like just having we had a drink and just like it was like a chilled out round a flat rather than like going we're going to a session now and like because sometimes that
Put
could
your
be
creative hat on.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's creativity on demand,
Yeah.
which is a weird thing to do as a concept.
I was talking about this the other day with someone actually, like, you know, it's so weird, but a lot of us who start up in music, it starts off with the whole fun aspect and you just, with your mates making music, and then it goes professional, and then it is, okay, we're going to a session.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just got to take yourself back to like, all right, why do I love this? Why do I love what I'm
And
doing?
then imagine at the end of that, you got the gatekeeper saying, nah, not worth it.
Oh, God, imagine.
Well, 100%. But then if someone says no at the end of it, you still had the fun of making the process.
Right.
And
100%.
and over time, that will shine through more than you grinding out like, do you like this sort of gatekeeper? Are you happy with this? But it's you should just make it for the fun of making music.
For the fun of it.
And it will sound like that as well when you play it back. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So, working with... it's that time of the show.
It is.
You are a little bit in trouble. No, I'm joking. So this is the part of the show that we call the album interlude section.
Okay.
Essentially what that means is that you've got 60 seconds to answer as many rapid fire questions as possible.
Okay.
And we're going to tally up how many you get at the end of the season, and the winning guest will get some prizes or a care package.
So there is right answers here.
They're no,
you just got to be quick.
Yeah, it's got to be quick.
Oh right, I see. Right,
Yeah,
the total number of answers.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I will say, we will deduct points if you're undecisive with the answers. Like,
Gotta be quick.
Yeah, if you say like both for a this or that question.
Oh right, okay.
Right,
Yeah.
so
I want to win.
we need
Are you gonna,
decisive
yep.
answers here.
All right. You go
Okay,
first?
so without any, I can go first. No, you go first. You go
All right,
first.
cool.
Yeah. Without
Right.
any further ado, the time starts now.
Headphones or monitors?
Monitors.
Would you rather work with a lazy artist or a stubborn quote writer?
Stubborn co-writer.
Analog or digital?
Digital.
What's your favourite cheese?
Oh, you got it there.
Roquefort.
Oh, favourite song?
Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles.
Biggest distraction as a songwriter?
The internet.
Favourite song
Good
you
answer.
wrote?
I'll just go slow grenade because I thought about that a minute ago.
Favourite sport?
Football.
Instrumental or a cappella?
Instrumental.
Guitar or piano?
Oh, that's guitar.
Favourite EQ?
Fab Filter Pro Q3.
Studio snack?
Crisps.
Favourite compressor?
CL1B.
What flavour crisps?
Ready salted, I don't know.
Favourite festival?
Glastonbury.
Beach break or city break?
Beach.
Favourite song that you...
That's time. Well, you
should
got
we
that one in.
Let me the last song.
Yeah.
Favourite song you sing in the shower?
Ooh.
Oh.
What
I
are
don't
you
really sing in the
belting
shower.
out?
I'm more
Come on.
like
You're a hummer, are you?
no. I'm like winning
In,
arguments
out.
from the previous day. Like I should have said this. Like, that's what I normally do. in the
That
shower.
is,
Fair
that's
enough.
amazing, man.
Yeah.
We'll tally that up and
That is probably the best thing to do in the shower, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Just
100%.
thinking in your head.
Yeah, like I do a whole rant to them. Like,
Yeah.
And another thing.
Yeah.
Right,
I should have said
And
that.
then
Yeah,
next
yeah.
day you say, oh, yeah, mate.
yeah, exactly.
never happens.
Yeah, you apologise to them the next day.
Oh man,
Lovely.
That's great.
All right, jumping straight. Yeah, sorry about that section. Jumping straight back into it. Talking about Ellie Goulding for a second there.
Yeah.
What was it like meeting her for the first time, and how was it, writing for her as as part of her, song creation system as process rather, and writing a song that matches her unique tone of voice as well.
So as I touched on earlier, like my initial work relationship with her was as an engineer,
Right.
doing cutting vocals with her. So and then it was probably a process of 5-6 years till we started writing, and then it evolved into vocal production, finishing. Did a lot of the acoustic versions of things. It was quite a slow process, and then on the last album, Brightest Blue. Well, we did a bit of writing before that. There was 1 or 2 things we did, and then on the previous album, Delirium, and then on Brightest Blue, sort of. She sort of came to me. We did a lot of it in New York because she was living there. Because her now husband, then boyfriend, was based there. So we did a lot of it there. Just the 2 of us, actually. There was various co-writers that came in and out, and various sessions, but she knows what she wants, so it's helping her get there. So in terms of her tone of voice, she will dictate what feels good to her. And sometimes that might mean starting 8 ideas until you find the one. But I really like that process, because the worst thing I think you can do when you're writing is like settle. It's like, okay, we started this, let's just do this. But everyone's in the back of their head going, it's not great, right? But so she's very good at going, no, let's try something else. And yeah, just sort of working with her to achieve. You know, she'll always have like a concept and a lyric, and
Did you ever get the whole you know, because she was quite big when you first met her. I imagine you must have had a bit of a what's it called? When you meet someone that's famous, starstruck. You must have been a bit starstruck. Or
kind of, yeah.
Because I remember back in the day, like when she released Starry Eyed when I was a bit younger, that was a banger back in the day.
Yeah. So I met her like towards the end of the second album.
Okay.
So yeah, she was a big star. But the only thing was the starstruck thing, because I worked at British Global, we had lots of very famous.
Okay, fair enough.
But this is how, like, if I met Steven Gerrard, I'd cry, I think.
Outside your field, right?
But when it's work,
for the Americans watching, there's Steven Gerrard is a soccer player.
I'm a big Liverpool fan, so he's my hero.
Ooh.
But if
Ooh.
But but when you meet music people, in my head at least, I'm like, I should be working with them, because they're in the same job as me.
Yeah, exactly.
So they kind of, it's like, there's a certain degree of it, but less so than like, or if I met a movie star, because I'm
fair enough.
then you sort of become more like a fan. Whereas when it's like they become like a colleague, so it's a slightly different experience.
So is there a musician or an artist that if you met you might have that a little bit?
David Albarn.
Ooh,
yeah,
interesting. So I think mine would be Paul McCartney.
Yeah,
I've
worked
met him right in British Grove. Yeah.
Mine's Drake. I'm sorry, but
really,
it would be Drake.
Oh, he's sick.
Anyone?
What? So just this is not actually one of my questions, but I wanted to ask you, talking about British Grove and building relationships. How important was that, obviously, for like a new generation working in the studio? How important is building relationship and staying in touch and making sure you're communicating to the artist? And, you know, because obviously for her to call you out to New York means you did something right between British Grove and that time. So how did you kind of keep the relationship going?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very important. Like, following up on stuff. Like, especially if you're at like a commercial studio, different people coming in every day, so it's up to you then to impress them. And you'd be surprised the amount of them that like, I actually need someone to do some editing for me, or I need someone to tune these vocals or whatever, I don't know, and like building up those relationships with one side with artists and the other side with producers and or other mixers or anything, because then these are you'll get opportunities, especially from if you're starting out, to as much as you need to do the work, sending that text or sending that follow-up email. Just to remind people, because everyone's very busy. And just to like, oh, remember that kid was keen. Blah blah. Let's give them a call. Or I've got this other job I need to do, and in this other studio. I wonder if they can be there because I know them and I trust them now. So it's massive. I think it's a very good thing to bear in mind when you're working. As much as, like say, being technical, knowing everything, that is important, but sometimes not always enough. You need to network and chat to people as well.
100%. Got to keep the relationships flowing, man.
And how does sorry, this is slightly excuse me, this is slightly off topic, but how does Pro Tools fit into the whole process of your songwriting and production?
I only use Pro Tools personally.
Nice. We didn't pay him to say that, by the way.
I've tried other doors in the past, but it's just never clicked for me. I was sort of brought up on Pro Tools. I mean, some of that stems from me coming from an engineering side, because Pro Tools was traditionally more that world, but then now it's completely evolved into a full songwriting tool. So it's like it's where I start everything and finish everything. It never leaves it, basically.
And you're doing your whole production and stuff in Pro Tools?
Everything's in Pro Tools.
So just quickly, I want to ask, what's your favourite feature and your favourite Avid plugin?
My favourite Avid plugin, weirdly, is Xform.
Ooh. You heard it here first.
I like that.
Because it's the best time stretch algorithm.
Yes.
I mean, you have to let it render, but it's worth it. Because like, especially in other doors, when you start like, if someone goes, "Can we change the tempo of the song?" I go, "Oh, it's like," especially if they want to slow it down. You hear so many artifacts and stuff, but Xform's amazing.
We haven't had that one before.
No, we haven't.
It's probably the one I use the most.
Veriform was one, or Lo-Fi is always the main one.
Yeah, Verify and Lo-Fi I do use.
Verify is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Slowing down things and
But in terms of just something that I used every day for time stretching, is a part of, making things work, mucking around samples. Even just like I remember yesterday I had a string sample I wanted to put in something. and I changed the default time stretch algorithm to time shift rather than just because I was doing something quick, because you have to wait for X form a bit longer. And then I was like, oh, it sounds weird and grainy. And then I suddenly went back, redid it in X form, and it's perfect. And I go, that's why I use X form.
Right.
And it's a bit of a boring answer maybe, but it's amazing.
I mean, if it kind of made you choose Pro Tools, then
Yeah,
yeah,
if it works,
100%. So going back to kind of more the artist side, and obviously you're working with some of these big artists, right? What have your kind of biggest takeaways been from working with huge artists, and how have they again helped you develop Joe into Joe today? Because you hear a lot of stories, and you hear probably a lot of.
My main thing is that everyone does it different.
Yeah.
There's no sort of like, oh right, I know how to do artist sessions now. Every time you go and it's complete like, oh, okay, they like to do this, okay, and you just the being adaptable, I suppose, is the main thing I've taken away from it. Because as much as you can go, oh, but I was with so and so who's like similar voice, similar style of music, and they like to do it like this, but the next, the next artist might be completely different, and sort of being happy to go with it. And
a question I had actually on that as well was, so you said you fly out to America a lot as well, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of British songwriters that fly out to LA a lot.
Yeah.
Is there a reason behind that?
It's just
are we better basically?
I think everyone's going there. I don't know. I'd say the songwriting community is like 4 or 5 times the size in LA, just so there's just more music to be made. Yeah. So, I mean, a bunch of Brits do end up going and relocating there. Yeah. But if you're not willing to do that, I'd say sort of pro level writers going out 2 or 3 times a year for a couple of weeks at a time at least, to sort of keep your toe in the door of that world, and just write with people that. Some of the American writers do obviously come over to here and do trips here. It's just a way of keeping it international, and also like keeping it exciting and fresh as well.
And what is again for like the new gen, but like a writing camp, right? You hear about that a lot.
Yeah.
Could you maybe touch on what a writing camp is, what you might experience there, and kind of what it'd be like?
So it'll just be a focus, normally like week or maybe 2 weeks sometimes. Sometimes put together by a label or for a particular artist. Just intense writing, and so they might do 3 or 4 up to 6, 7 rooms. I don't know. Wow. So they have producer in each, maybe 1 or 2 writers in each, and the artist can jump around between rooms. Wow. But then some artists, I've been to ones before, have struggled with that concept because they like to be in the room where everything's being written. So 2 rooms might be the most they can sort of deal with, because otherwise it's like having 6 songs written for you, and there's only one of you to try and get around. But then so other ones like publishers or whatever might throw a camp, and then it's just sort of pitch writing. Generally, there'll probably be briefs and stuff. And normally it'll be at some sort of residential place, whatever. So you're kind of enveloped in the camp the whole time. Which, I mean, I can find them a bit hit and miss depending on who's there and whatever. They can be amazing. Sometimes they can end up being more like a party, which can be fun, but also quite hard work sometimes. If like the next day I need to be up again at 10 to write, and you've been sort of partying all night, can be kind of tricky, and then the next day is actually not very productive. Well, then the flip side of that is sometimes on the hangover it can be very productive. You can sometimes some mad ideas can come out of that. So I don't know. Every camp is kind of different, but
And how fine is the line between creativity and having to like follow guidelines for it?
Well, in the sense of writing the song.
Yeah.
Well, I guess as I was saying earlier, I think if you can sort of almost ignore the guidelines, you're probably not making a better song.
Yeah.
But there's certain things in pop music that you kind of, I don't want to say you can't do, but it makes sense to do certain things to sort of, have like intelligent maths for like, you don't have like a sort of 2-minute verse and a 10-second chorus or whatever.
Of course,
so you need to like, there's got to be some sort of structure and symmetry and stuff like that. Some people take it really extreme with the symmetry and the math and stuff, which it works completely. And then some people are completely left, and every bar can be a different thing. I'm somewhere probably in the middle, but
I think it depends on the genres of the music as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, Max Martin's always the best example of like crosses several genres, but there's always like a symmetry and structure to what he does. I don't want formula is an ugly word, but like it's thought out. It's so from a Weekend song to a Britney Spears song, very different stylistically and genre, I guess. It's all pop, but it will follow similar trends and how he makes it work.
And he makes it work.
And just quickly as well before we start wrapping up probably, but you've obviously got into K-pop recently, and obviously worked on a lot of UK pop music and obviously US stuff as well. Is there a difference of how you're writing for a K-pop session compared to a pop session in the UK?
Well, weirdly, all the K-pop songs I've had out
Yeah.
were just written as normal sort of pop.
Oh, and they were translated over to
Western pop pitch set.
Wow.
And then they translate, which is a madness, that whole world, because
I've never thought that.
Yeah, that's
the
crazy.
song, but they come back half the time, and the actual title is different and everything.
Oh my god.
And so I don't really know what they've done. The lyric completely changed it.
Wow.
But it doesn't really matter. But traditional K-pop was way more mad. Like every section would be a different genre. Like different chord. It'd be kind of crazy. But it's getting way more westernized in the sense that they're kind of just like straight up pop songs a lot more time and a lot more straightforward. There's still this element of like everything's a bit more theatrical and a bit more over the top and in your face, but production wise at least, I think it's quite a refreshing thing to do.
Must be,
because a lot of the stuff that over here might be deemed like uncool, you can sort of just be like a bit mad and go for it.
Be free.
And
and it's great. And the other thing, as a songwriter, the artists as a general rule don't really write in Korea, so you've got this plethora of artists that only take pitch songs.
No way.
Whereas in the UK and America, obviously most artists like to write, so the amount of songs you can pitch is a much smaller thing. Whereas out there, everyone's looking for pitch songs constantly to do whole lot, and they knock out albums. And
it's a whole market out there then.
Well, that's means just more songs that can be taken.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an interesting whole, and because we sometimes have blinkers that don't we, like UK and America, so we think about music, but that's how many people is that? Like 500 million. There's 8 billion people on the planet. There's so much more like music we
outside of it, that
we could be like selling our music to, basically.
Wow. Before we sign off, Joe, firstly, thanks again for coming down.
Thank you.
Before we sign off, are there any words of inspiration or advice that you can offer to some of our viewers out there for getting into songwriting or becoming a producer or even a musician? And what are some of the key essential things to have as part of your personality trait?
Resilience.
Goes a long way.
And just keep trying. I mean, you'll probably end up writing 300 bad songs till you write the great one, but you just keep going and going and be a general nice person. You hear a lot of horror stories about people in studios being mean to people and stuff. It doesn't go very far, and it's a small world.
Oh yeah.
So just be nice, easy to get on with, because you could be the best producer on the planet, but if
you're not a people person, no
one's going to want to spend a room in 10 hours with no windows with you, are they? So.
100%.
So
fair enough. Cool. Wow. Well, thanks again for coming down, Joe. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, amazing.
And before we sign off with you guys, please remember to click the link in the description for a chance to win a 1-year Sibelius artist license, as well as $100 worth of Avid swag and merchandise. Now, before we sign off again, there's one last thing I want to add. Where can people follow you, Joe, if they want to come and check out some of your work? And
I'm not the most active social media person, but Instagram is... I'm going to get it wrong now. The Colonel 86, I think.
Okay.
Fantastic.
You'll add it in the link somewhere.
It'll be in the description.
These guys can deal with that.
What about do you have like a Spotify playlist that people might be able to hear your stuff on?
Yeah, I think there's. Again, I'll get my management.
We'll get the links out. Yeah, we'll get all the
I'm
links
really bad at this stuff. That's why that's why I pay managers.
Yes, exactly. We like that. Well, thank you, Joe. That was amazing, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you for tuning in, guys. If you're listening on your preferred streaming platform, please make sure that you rate this episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and drop a comment below. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
That sounds great.